3 days crawled by like an eternity. The massive Draconian warships hung in Earth's sky like dark storm clouds that refused to break. From his orbital monitoring station, Captain Taemin Choi watched the alien fleet through advanced telescopes and sensor arrays that most people didn't even know existed. The Korean Space Defense Corps had been quietly operating for decades, preparing for exactly this moment. "Colonel Han, you need to see this," Taemin spoke into his headset, his voice tense with concern. Below him, the alien ships were slowly shifting positions, moving from their loose formation into something much more threatening. They're forming attack patterns, classic orbital bombardment setup. Colonel Ji-eun Han studied the tactical displays from her underground command center near Seoul. The veteran officer had served in 3 different military branches before joining the secret space defense program. Her weathered hands traced the enemy movements on the holographic screen. "How long do we have before they start shooting?" "Based on their formation speed, maybe 6 hours, 12 at most." Taemin zoomed in on the largest vessel, a monstrous ship that dwarfed anything humanity had ever built. Strange energy readings pulsed from its weapon ports. "Colonel, these aren't just regular warships. I'm detecting power signatures that could level entire continents." The Draconian fleet had grown more aggressive with each passing hour. Smaller fighter craft now buzzed between the capital ships like angry hornets, their green engine trails leaving toxic clouds in Earth's upper atmosphere. Some of the larger vessels had begun rotating slowly, bringing their weapon arrays to bear on major population centers. On the surface, Dr. Bo Young-yoon worked frantically in her laboratory beneath the streets of Geneva. The 28-year-old physicist had been thrust into this role when her grandmother passed away 6 months earlier, taking with her 60 years of quantum research. Bo Young's hands trembled slightly as she calibrated the dimensional displacement matrix, knowing that one miscalculation could doom billions of people. "Quantum field generators at 97%, she reported to the global command network. Around her, massive machines hummed with barely contained energy. The technology looked like something from a science fiction movie, crystalline structures surrounded by spinning rings of exotic matter, all connected by streams of pure light. Her grandmother had always told her that the greatest weapons weren't always the loudest ones. While other species focused on bigger guns and stronger shields, humanity had chosen a different path. They had learned to bend reality itself. Commander Vorthak stalked across the bridge of his flagship, his massive claws clicking ominously against the metal deck plates. The Draconian commander was 8 feet of pure reptilian muscle, covered in dark green scales that had been scarred by countless battles. His yellow eyes burned with frustration as he studied the primitive world below. "These mammals confuse me, Lieutenant Sekthor," he hissed, his forked tongue flicking out to taste the air. "Every other species we've conquered showed fear by now. They send desperate messages, offer tribute, beg for mercy. But these humans..." He paused, his head tilting like a predator trying to understand unusual prey. Lieutenant Sekthor, a smaller Draconian with silver scales and nervous mannerisms, consulted his tactical displays. "Perhaps they are simply too primitive to understand. Their situation, Commander. Their technology is centuries behind ours." Vorthak's laugh was like grinding stones. "No, Sekthor. Primitive creatures scream and run when faced with superior predators. These humans are doing something else entirely. They're waiting." His claws extended further, scraping against the metal railing. "I don't like creatures that wait. It suggests they have plans." The Draconian fleet had conquered over 300 worlds in their march across the galaxy. Some species fought bravely but futilely, others surrendered immediately. A few tried to hide or negotiate, but none had ever simply ignored them. The silence from Earth was unnerving, even to hardened warriors who had seen the destruction of entire civilizations. General Da-eun-shin coordinated the global defense network from her massive command center in Busan. The facility stretched for miles beneath the Korean port city, filled with quantum computers and communication arrays that connected to similar installations on every continent. Her calm voice carried absolute authority as she addressed teams around the world. "London Node, report status." The response crackled through from beneath the British Museum, where a quantum generator disguised as historical storage hummed with deadly energy. New York node, status report. Deep under Central Park, American technicians confirmed their systems were ready. One by one, she contacted hidden installations in Tokyo, Moscow, Sydney, Cairo, and dozens of other locations. Each site contained part of humanity's ultimate weapon, a network of quantum field generators that could manipulate the very fabric of space and time. Above ground, strange things began happening to Earth's sky. Shimmering aurora patterns appeared even in broad daylight, dancing across the heavens in colors that had no names. The lights were beautiful but unnatural, visible from every point on the planet simultaneously. Weather stations recorded impossible readings as the planet's magnetic field fluctuated in ways that defied known physics. Birds fell silent. Dogs howled. Electronic devices flickered mysteriously. The alien ships themselves began registering energy readings they couldn't identify, their sensors detecting distortions in space-time that their science couldn't explain. The waiting game was almost over, and Earth was ready to show the galaxy what humanity had learned in the darkness between stars. The third day of the alien invasion dawned with an eerie crimson glow as the Draconian warships continued their menacing vigil above Earth's major cities. Captain Taemin Choi floated weightlessly in his cramped orbital monitoring station, eyes glued to the sensor displays that showed every movement of the massive alien fleet. The station was disguised as space debris, invisible to alien scanners, but equipped with the most advanced surveillance technology humanity had ever developed. "Colonel Han, we've got a problem," Taemin whispered into his encrypted communicator, watching as the alien ships began a slow but deliberate repositioning. "The big ones are moving into attack formation. I count 47 capital ships taking bombardment positions over major population centers." Colonel Ji-un Han studied the tactical hologram in her underground command bunker, her experienced eyes immediately recognizing the threat pattern. The Draconian fleet was arranging itself like a hammer preparing to strike an anvil. "How much time do we have, Captain?" "At their current rate of movement, maybe 4 hours before they can begin orbital strikes. But, Colonel, there's something else." Taemin adjusted his sensors to focus on the alien communications array. "I'm picking up their radio chatter. They're getting frustrated, really frustrated." The intercepted alien communications painted a disturbing picture. The Draconians were used to terror, to desperate pleas for mercy, to civilizations crumbling under the weight of hopelessness. Earth's silence was driving them toward immediate action rather than the slow psychological warfare they preferred. Deep beneath the streets of Geneva, Dr. Bo Young-yoon worked with the precision of a master surgeon operating on the universe itself. The young physicist had inherited more than just her grandmother's research. She had inherited the weight of humanity's survival. The quantum displacement laboratory hummed around her like a mechanical heartbeat filled with crystalline structures that pulsed with otherworldly energy. "Field Generator 7 is showing minor fluctuations," she reported to the global network, her fingers dancing across holographic controls that would have seemed like magic to earlier generations, compensating with secondary harmonics. The mathematics involved were so complex that only 12 people on Earth truly understood them, and half of those were already dead. Her grandmother had spent 60 years developing this technology in secret, hidden from both human governments and potential alien observers. The theory was elegant in its simplicity. Instead of destroying the enemy, simply move them somewhere else, somewhere very, very far away. Commander Vorthak's frustration had evolved into something approaching rage. The massive Draconian leader stood on his bridge surrounded by holographic displays showing the primitive blue world below. His yellow eyes burned with predatory hunger as he watched human cities continue their normal routines, as if 10,000 alien warships weren't hovering overhead. "This is intolerable," he snarled, his claws extending to their full length. "Sekthor, initiate communication with the human leadership. I want to speak directly to whoever commands these mammals." Lieutenant Sekthor's silver scales rippled with nervousness. "Commander, we've tried every communication frequency. They're not responding to any of our hails. It's as if they're deliberately ignoring us." The bridge fell silent except for the low hum of the ship's engines. In 300 years of conquest, the Draconians had never encountered a species that simply refused to acknowledge their presence. Even the most warlike races at least tried. to negotiate or make threats. This complete silence was unnerving. Perhaps, Vorthak said slowly, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper, it's time to give them something impossible to ignore. Target their largest population center. Prepare. A demonstration strike. General Da Junshin coordinated humanity's response from her massive command center, buried beneath the port city of Busan. The facility was a marvel of engineering, stretching for miles underground and connected to similar installations on every continent through quantum-encrypted communication networks. Her calm voice carried absolute authority as she managed the most complex military operation in human history. Tokyo Node, increase field generation to maximum capacity, she ordered. Deep beneath Japan's capital city, technicians in a facility, disguised as a subway maintenance center, pushed their quantum generators to their operational limits. London Node, confirm synchronization with European grid. The response came from beneath the Thames River, where British scientists monitored field harmonics that could tear holes in reality itself. One by one, she contacted hidden installations across the globe. Each facility represented years of secret construction, hidden from satellite surveillance and government oversight. The network included sites in the Amazon rainforest, beneath the Sahara Desert, under the ice of Antarctica, and in the deepest ocean trenches. Strange phenomena began manifesting across Earth's surface. The sky itself seemed to ripple like water, with aurora patterns appearing even in bright daylight. These weren't normal auroras. They danced in impossible colors that hurt to look at directly, forming geometric patterns that seemed to shift and breathe. Weather stations around the world recorded readings that defied known physics. Magnetic fields fluctuated wildly, birds fell silent and refused to fly. Deep ocean creatures rose to the surface, fleeing from something in the depths. Electronic devices flickered and displayed cryptic symbols that appeared in no human language. The alien ships themselves began detecting energy signatures they couldn't identify. Their sensors, designed to analyze the technology of conquered civilizations, registered distortions in space-time that their science couldn't explain. Reality itself seemed to be preparing for something unprecedented. The waiting game was nearly over, and Earth was about to reveal that humanity had learned to fight battles in dimensions that other species didn't even know existed. The moment had arrived. Dr. Mi-Young Lee stood before the master control console in her hidden laboratory, beneath the Swiss Alps, her finger hovering over a single red button that would either save humanity or doom it forever. Around her, the quantum displacement generators reached their maximum power output, filling the underground chamber with an otherworldly humming that seemed to vibrate through her very bones. All stations report ready for dimensional translation. She spoke into her headset, her voice steady despite the enormous weight of responsibility. This was the culmination of 60 years of secret research, theoretical physics, pushed beyond the boundaries of what most species in the galaxy believed possible. At exactly 14:32 GMT, she pressed the button. The effect was beyond instantaneous. It was as if reality itself blinked. Above Earth's surface, 10,000 Draconian warships that had dominated the sky for 3 days simply vanished. Not destroyed, not moved to another location, but erased from normal space-time as if they had never existed at all. The massive shadows that had fallen across cities worldwide disappeared, replaced by natural sunlight for the first time in 72 hours. Captain Tae-min Choi was staring directly at the alien fleet through his orbital station's sensors when it happened. 1 second his screen showed the massive Draconian formation in perfect detail. Every ship, every weapon, every fighter craft buzzing between the capital vessels. The next second, his displays showed nothing but empty space and the familiar blue curve of Earth below. "What the hell just happened?" he whispered, frantically checking his equipment. Every sensor, every camera, every detection system confirmed the same impossible truth. The alien fleet had simply ceased to exist. Commander, Vorthak felt the universe shift around him like a massive earthquake in the fabric of reality. The bridge of his flagship seemed unchanged, the same control panels, the same crew stations, the same holographic displays, but something was fundamentally wrong. The stars visible through the main viewport had changed position. The blue planet below looked identical, yet somehow different, as if he were viewing it through a distorted mirror. "Sector report," he barked at his lieutenant, but his voice sounded strange, echoing in ways that defied the bridge's acoustics. "Commander, all systems are experiencing massive failures," the silver-scaled Draconian replied, his voice filled with panic. "Weapon systems won't initialize. Communications are receiving only static. Navigation shows we're in the same location, but our star charts don't match what we're seeing." Vorthik moved to the tactical display, his clawed hands working frantically, over controls that responded sluggishly, as if fighting against some invisible resistance. The fleet status report was a nightmare of red warning indicators. Every ship in his armada was experiencing the same phenomenon. Their advanced technology was barely functioning, reduced to basic life support and minimal propulsion. "Where are we?" he snarled. But deep down, he already suspected the truth. The humans had done something impossible, something that violated every law of physics the Draconians understood. They had been translated into a parallel dimensional space, trapped in a mirror universe where the rules were subtly but critically different. Their weapons, designed for their home dimension, couldn't function properly here. Their communication systems couldn't reach across the dimensional barrier. They were prisoners in a reality that looked like home, but operated by alien principles. Back on Earth, President Jin Ho-yoon stood before a hastily assembled global press conference. The elderly leader's face showed no emotion as he delivered humanity's first official statement about the alien invasion. "The threat to our world has been neutralized," he announced calmly. "The Draconian fleet has chosen to leave our space. Earth remains free and independent." The carefully worded statement said nothing about how the aliens had been removed, only that they were gone. Within hours, the video would be broadcast to every corner of the galaxy, carried by deep space relay stations that would spread the news across thousands of worlds. Colonel Ji-eun-han stared at her tactical displays in amazement, unable to believe what her sensors were telling her. "Captain Choi, can you confirm, are they really gone?" Taemin ran every scan his orbital station could perform, checking and double-checking his readings. "Colonel, they're completely gone. No debris, no energy signatures, no trace they were ever here. It's like they just stopped existing." In her Geneva laboratory, Dr. Bo Young-yoon collapsed into her chair, physically and emotionally drained. The quantum displacement field had worked perfectly, executing a maneuver so complex that most alien species had never even theorized about it. Instead of destroying the enemy fleet, humanity had simply moved them to a place where they could never threaten anyone again. The young physicist looked at the monitoring screens, showing the dimensional barrier holding steady. The Draconians were alive but trapped forever in a pocket universe where their technology was useless and their weapons were powerless. It was perhaps the most merciful victory in the history of warfare. General Daeun Shin coordinated the global stand-down from her command center in Busan. "All quantum nodes, begin power reduction sequence. Mission accomplished." Around the world, hidden installations began shutting down their dimensional generators, but maintained enough power to keep the barrier intact indefinitely. Earth's message to the galaxy was simple and clear. "We are humanity. We wish to be left alone." The transmission carried with it the subtle implication that any species attempting to threaten Earth might find themselves joining the Draconians in their dimensional prison. The galaxy had just witnessed the birth of a new kind of power, one that could make entire fleets vanish without firing a shot. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire through dry grass. Within hours of Earth's broadcast, every spacefaring civilization knew that the mighty Draconian hegemony had suffered an impossible defeat. The reptilian empire that had terrorized the galaxy for 3 centuries had simply vanished while attacking some unknown world called Earth. On Kepler 442b, a mining world 300 light-years from Earth, the enslaved Zenthari workers felt something they hadn't experienced in generations: hope. The blue-skinned humanoids had toiled in radioactive mines for over a century, watched over by Draconian overseers who treated them like expendable machinery. But when news arrived that an entire Draconian fleet had disappeared without a trace, everything changed. Kethvar, an elderly Zenthari mine foreman, stood before his fellow workers in the dim underground tunnels. His forearms gestured dramatically as he spoke in hushed tones. "Brothers and sisters, the reptiles are not invincible. Some species called humans prove that. If they can make 10,000 Draconian ships vanish, perhaps we can free ourselves from these few hundred guards." The rebellion began that same night. Armed with mining tools and explosive charges, the Zenthari overwhelmed their shocked Draconian overseers. Similar uprisings erupted across dozens of worlds as enslaved species realized that their oppressors were not the unstoppable force they had believed. Admiral Sung Ho Park monitored these developments from his secret listening post hidden in the asteroid belt beyond Mars. The facility was disguised as a mining operation, but its true purpose was intercepting communications from across the galaxy. His team of xenolinguists worked around the clock, translating messages from hundreds of different species. "Defense Minister Kim, you need to see this," Sung Ho reported during his daily briefing. The grizzled admiral had spent 30 years preparing for alien contact, but nothing had prepared him for the chaos they had unleashed. "The Draconian Empire is collapsing faster than we anticipated. We're tracking active rebellions on 43 worlds and civil wars have broken out on 17 more." Defense Minister Yejin Kim studied the galactic map, displaying the spreading chaos. Red markers indicated worlds in open revolt, while yellow markers showed regions where Draconian control was weakening. "How are they responding to the crisis?" "That's the interesting part," Sung Ho replied, pulling up intercepted communications. "The Draconian High Command is sending investigation fleets toward our solar system, trying to figure out what happened to their missing armada. 3 separate fleets have been dispatched so far. What the Draconians didn't know was that Earth's dimensional barriers extended far beyond the planet itself. The quantum field generators had created a protective shell around the entire solar system, invisible to conventional sensors but absolutely lethal to any hostile force. The first Draconian investigation fleet vanished when it crossed the orbit of Pluto. The second disappeared near Jupiter. The third never even made it past the asteroid belt. Each vanishing fleet only added to the growing legend of humanity's mysterious power. Across the galaxy, species whispered about the unknown beings who could make entire armadas disappear without leaving so much as a scrap of debris. Dr. Wu Jin Lee, Mi Young's younger brother, tracked the galactic economic collapse from his xenosociology laboratory in Seoul. The brilliant scientist had spent years studying alien cultures and trade patterns, preparing for the day when humanity would need to understand its galactic neighbors. "The ripple effects are exceeding our worst-case scenarios," he reported to the Emergency Council. 3 major trade confederations have collapsed completely: the Vegan Commercial Alliance, the Rigel Shipping Consortium, and the Centauri Banking Syndicate have all ceased operations. The economic chaos was as devastating as the military collapse. For centuries, the galaxy's trade networks had operated under Draconian protection. Merchant ships paid tribute to avoid being attacked, and entire star systems had organized their economies around serving the reptilian empire. With that structure suddenly gone, panic spread through financial markets faster than the speed of light. Space stations that had served as trading hubs for millennia found themselves abandoned as species retreated to their home systems. Trade routes that had carried goods between civilizations for generations became haunted highways, patrolled by pirates and desperate refugees. Ambassador Hae-won Cho worked tirelessly from her diplomatic center hidden beneath the United Nations building in New York. The former professor of interstellar relations had been recruited specifically for this moment, first contact with alien civilizations. But instead of greeting peaceful explorers, she found herself managing desperate pleas from across the galaxy. "Ambassador, we're receiving another transmission from the Andromedan Council," her assistant reported. "They're offering to recognize Earth's sovereignty in exchange for protection from Draconian remnant forces." Hee-won reviewed the carefully prepared response that had been approved by the global leadership. "Send the standard reply. Humanity appreciates their interest, but prefers to maintain our current isolation." Similar messages arrived daily from dozens of different species. Some offered trade agreements, others requested military alliances, and a few even begged for Earth's protection against the chaos spreading across their regions. Each received the same polite but firm response. The Altarian Federation sent a diplomatic envoy, a sleek vessel that broadcast peaceful intentions as it approached the solar system. The ship vanished the moment it crossed the outer boundary, its crew joining the Draconians in their dimensional prison. The Procyon Alliance tried a different approach, launching unmanned probes loaded with gifts and messages of friendship. Each probe disappeared without a trace, swallowed by the invisible barrier that protected humanity's home system. Even the mysterious beings from the Magellanic Clouds, ancient creatures who had watched the galaxy's evolution for millions of years, sent cautious inquiries about the new power that had emerged from the galactic rim. They too received the same response. Humanity wished to be left alone. The galaxy learned to fear and respect the unknown humans who had demonstrated power beyond comprehension. Legends spread about the beings who could make entire fleets vanish. Without firing a shot, who could trap enemies in places that existed between reality and nightmare. Space had become a much more dangerous place, and everyone knew that Earth was the reason why. 5 years had passed since the day the Draconian fleet vanished from Earth's skies, and the galaxy had transformed into something unrecognizable. What was once a stable empire stretching across 3 spiral arms had fractured into hundreds of smaller territories, each fighting desperately for survival in a universe suddenly without its dominant predator. Admiral J. Sung-Oh floated through, the command center of his secret base on Europa, Jupiter's ice-covered moon. Through the massive viewing ports, he could see the continuing construction of humanity's greatest project, a network of hidden installations that stretched throughout the outer solar system. Massive shipyards hung in the shadows of Saturn's rings, invisible to any outside observer thanks to advanced cloaking technology that bent light and sensor waves around the structures. Admiral, the Neptune facility reports completion of its defense grid, Commander Yijun Park reported from his station. The young officer had been born after the Vanishing, part of a new generation of humans who had grown up knowing their species was the galaxy's most feared mystery. Jae-sung nodded, studying the holographic display that showed humanity's expanding, defensive network. What the galaxy didn't know was that Earth hadn't simply hidden after demonstrating its power. It had been building, preparing, growing stronger. The construction projects were marvels of engineering that would have amazed even the advanced Draconians. Automated factories in the asteroid belt churned out materials using technology that combined human ingenuity with principles learned from studying dimensional physics. Mining operations on the moons of gas giants extracted resources that didn't even exist in normal space-time. Dr. Yoon-ji Kwon had become Earth's leading expert on the transformed galactic political landscape. From her research facility beneath the Korean DMZ, she monitored communications from across known space, tracking the rise and fall of civilizations in the post-Draconian era. President Nam, the situation continues to deteriorate, she reported during her weekly briefing. The middle-aged xenologist had spent the last 5 years watching the galaxy tear itself apart. The former Draconian territories have split into 47 different factions, and they're all fighting each other for control. President So Young-nam, who had succeeded Jin Ho-yoon after his peaceful retirement, studied the latest intelligence reports. The woman who now led Earth was younger than her predecessor, but no less determined to protect humanity's independence. What are they calling us now? The Silent Guardians, Yoon-ji replied, pulling up intercepted communications. Some species worship us as gods. Others fear us as demons, but they all agree on one thing. We possess power beyond their understanding. The transformation of galactic civilization had been swift and brutal. Without the Draconian military machine to maintain order, old rivalries had exploded into open warfare. Species that had been enslaved for centuries now fought for revenge against their former oppressors. Trade routes collapsed as merchant vessels were attacked by pirates and desperate refugees. Captain Min-soo Jang operated from a monitoring station hidden in the Kuiper Belt, far beyond Pluto's orbit. His job was to intercept and analyze the desperate communications flooding across interstellar space as civilizations begged for help from the mysterious humans. "Captain, we're receiving another plea from the Vegan system," his communications officer reported. "Their government is offering half their planetary resources in exchange for protection from Draconian remnant forces." Minsu had heard dozens of similar messages every day for years. Former allies of the Draconians, species that had collaborated with the Reptilian Empire, now found themselves hunted by their former victims. They all hoped that the mysterious humans might show mercy. "Send the standard response," Minsu ordered. "Humanity appreciates their message, but prefers to maintain our isolation." What these desperate species didn't realize was that Earth had developed capabilities far beyond the dimensional displacement technology that had defeated the Draconians. The few brave explorers who attempted to approach the Sol system found themselves experiencing strange psychological effects. Captain Vos Tell of the Altarian merchant vessel Starwind had been one such explorer. His ship had approached to within 50 astronomical units of Earth's sun when he suddenly felt an overwhelming urge to change course. The urge wasn't violent or threatening. It was gentle, almost like a suggestion from a trusted friend. Before he knew it, he was heading back toward Altair with only vague memories of why he had been traveling toward the Sol system in the first place. Earth's psychic defense grid was perhaps humanity's most closely guarded secret, built using principles discovered while researching dimensional physics. The network could influence thoughts and memories across vast distances. Any hostile mind approaching the solar system would find itself gently but firmly redirected elsewhere, often with no memory of the original intention. The system was entirely passive, designed to prevent conflict rather than cause harm, but its existence meant that Earth remained completely hidden from direct observation, a ghost civilization that existed in galactic legends but could never be directly contacted. Commander Hyun-Woo Kim, now 78 years old, tended his garden in the hills outside Seoul. The man who had coordinated Earth's defense during humanity's darkest hour now spent his days growing vegetables and playing with his grandchildren. Young So-min and Jae-woo chased each other through the tomato plants, laughing and completely unaware that their grandfather was a hero who had helped save their entire species. "Grandfather, tell us about the skylights again," little So-min asked, settling onto his lap as the sun set behind the mountains. Hyun-woo smiled, remembering the strange auroras that had appeared during those 3 terrifying days, 5 years. "Haroshcha, well, my dear, sometimes the sky puts on a show to remind us how beautiful our world is." He didn't tell them about the alien warships that had once blocked out that same sky, or about the terrible weapons that could have destroyed their civilization. They would learn about humanity's hidden strength when they were older, when they joined the secret programs that kept Earth safe, across the galaxy, in the ruins of former Draconian strongholds and the new capitals of liberated worlds. Beings whispered stories about the mysterious humans. Some called them saviors, who had freed the galaxy from tyranny. Others named them destroyers, who had unleashed chaos across the stars. But all agreed on one fundamental truth. Somewhere in the outer rim of the galaxy, on a small blue world orbiting an ordinary yellow star, lived beings who possessed power that defied understanding. They had made the mightiest fleet in galactic history simply vanish, leaving behind only legends and nightmares. The galaxy had learned to fear the silence from Earth, because that silence meant humanity was watching, waiting and judging whether the universe deserved their protection or their wrath. The end.